All right, GM everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Pinto Town Hall. Uh, Apologies for getting started a little late. We've had some VPN issues that are still plaguing Pintocito, so not sure if they'll be able to participate. We'll conduct this town hall generally the same way that we conduct these town halls every week, where we'll hear from the contributors that are around, what they're working on, what they're excited about, etc. Then we'll open up the floor for questions if there are any. If there's time, I'll share a bit about what's on my mind as I'm paying attention to the protocol, and we'll go from there. All right. So why don't we kick it off, as we always like to, with Frijo. How are you doing, sir?
Doing all right. I'm a little under the weather actually, but ultimately it's always a great day on the farm. This week, still working with Burr and Pinto Pirate on the main or final tail end of the convert up bonus. I just got word that yesterday Burr has finished the API integration and now just cleaning stuff up. Uh, so helping him on that whenever I can. Uh, on my end, I was deploying some contracts in anticipation of the upgrade and, saw that our libraries were out of date. Recently the Etherscan has updated the API to version 2 and our, deployment verification scripts use the version 1. And, that kind of got me down a rabbit hole, led me to see that the Hardhat libraries were not uh, updated to be backwards compatible. So I actually just, forked their repo and gave and updated it to be compatible. So I made a public repo, and my plan is given that I believe the migration from Hardhat 2 to Hardhat 3 is actually quite painful, to be honest. So I believe there's a number of projects in the space that will really need this ability to verify contracts, even though in our Hardhat 2. Uh, my intention is to make this public and send the hard hat team a message just to let people know. It's like, if you're a project who still uses the legacy hard hat versions, you're still able to verify your contracts. So I just finished that up like an hour before this call actually. But after that, it seems smooth sailing now. We're gonna do some final testing and hopefully get this thing out.
Wow, that is really exciting. Um, yeah, hard to think of the last time such a major upgrade to the farm happened. It might be the biggest upgrade since we launched Pinto. So, really, quite a meaningful new era we're about to enter. Thank you very much, Leo, for your work on that. And I'm sorry Burr's not here to talk about it as well, but really exciting and encouraging stuff. Um, all right, Pinto Pirate, how are things going on your end?
GM, going well. I've also been working on the tractor for the converting up. At this point, like Frio just said, Burr was successfully able to integrate all that stuff that I've been working on into the UI, so that's good news. And yeah, I mean, all that remains on my end is I'm just kind of getting ready to deploy it, and this upgrade in particular, has a bit more of a complex upgrade on my end in terms of like the actual steps that have to be executed at the time of deployment. So I'm just kind of making sure that I'm organized there and have everything in order, and that just kind of testing out that flow and making sure we won't have any kind of issues or disruption when it actually happens. So it's exciting stuff.
Thank you very much, Pinto Pirate. All right, so before I hand the floor to Floyd Rainwater for an update on their end, I want to highlight they are in the process of winding down their full-time contributions to the protocol. This was a difficult decision to make, but as we're running out of development budget funding, we're trying to be super lean and mean as we move forward to both keep development of the protocol ongoing while making sure that we can continue to put out regular updates. So before we ask you, Floyd, how you're doing, I just want to shout you out and thank you for all of your incredible contributions to the protocol thus far. And, it's for me personally quite a sad moment as we've had such a wonderful time working together. So Thank you very, very much, Floyd. All right, the floor is yours, Floyd. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And first of all, super thankful to have been a part of Pinto's journey, the journey towards better money. Uh, Glad to have the opportunity to work on this. So overall, just super grateful. And you know, I'm still around for a little bit, so there's still plenty of work to do. So on my end, I finished working on the landing page, post-launch issues that we found. Pretty happy with that. It's working really well. And now I'm mostly going through small bugs in the UI. Um, like we had an issue with the APY display not working correctly. That's fixed. That's already deployed. And I'm looking at right now. I'm looking into uh, apparently the APYs are not showing low under certain conditions. So that's what's on my table right now. Get that fixed.
Awesome. Uh, Thank you, Floyd. It's I know it's been hard to get this landing page to a point where it's basically all done, but yeah, I think it's really a powerful way for people to enter the protocol and experience it, and it's quite a lasting legacy you'll leave on the Pinto protocol with that. So, really, cheers and thanks to you. All right. So next, Pintacito is not able to speak on his own thing, so I'm going to hand him my headphones, and he's going to speak from my account now. So give me like 5 seconds, and we'll hear from Pintacito. GM, can you guys hear me?
You sound great.
We're doing. Oh, great. Okay. Sorry about the technical difficulties this week. Having some VPN issues. I've been sprinting on the docs as I have been for a while with the update that we are going to leverage the articles we've been writing for a new suite of documentation so that people can have an updated and thorough, accessible way to understand the protocol and all of its terms and mechanisms. So I've been playing around with a branch of the current Git book, merging the new documentation that I've been working on with Ben with the old docs to try to make sure that it is both a high level explaining how things work, but still being clear and comprehensive. So that's been very exciting. That's been my main focus. Otherwise, working on an application for a grant, which hopefully can work out for us in the medium term, related to base. But that's basically what I've been up to. I'm quite sick this week, unfortunately, but marching on strong here alongside Ben. Sorry that I'm not able to hear from everybody this week, but much love. All right, I'm back on the mic. Thank you, Pintacito. I see we have here a new beaver in the chat, Beaver Builder. How are you doing, sir? Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Yep, I'm one of Frijo's friends, and as he's visited us a few times, he's come down, explained Pinto, thought it was super interesting and very fascinating, and wanted to help contribute. So, Frijo has got me working on the tractor blueprint compression project, which is basically just trying to reduce the gas costs for publishing requisitions, and that involves like compressing the call data. And that's what I've been working on. We had a call a couple weeks ago about getting that started, and then I was out because of work, and now I'm back in the area, so I've been digging into this, trying to figure out what the best way to approach this problem is.
Wow, exciting stuff. Well, welcome to the farm, Beaver Builder. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to help out. It's very exciting.
Indeed, indeed. All right, that is it from all of the contributors except for myself that are here this week. The main update on my end is that the docks revamp project with Pintacito is nearing its finish. So I have basically finished my side of the bargain, pending a couple final reviews of the PI updates that we're revamping. But Pintacito is putting the final touches on the Git book. All of the essays, which we continue to put out one a week, are done. It's really quite an exciting moment for the protocol, where, as we've talked about for some months now, from my perspective, the user experience really needs an overhaul. And half of the user experience is the interface, which is currently being redone. But half of the experience is the docs and the education and the way that we actually onboard people to the platform. And at this point, the latter is basically done. So maybe the one nit is that the white paper is still a little out of date. I don't expect to have time to do that in the next couple of weeks necessarily, as we gear up for launching a private testnet for Nebula, which I know I've spoken a little bit about here. And so it's a really big milestone, honestly. So in addition to getting the convert bonus out, to which I'm very grateful to Frijo, Burr, and Pinto Pirate, we also have all these new docs coming out. And the Git book should be updated sometime in the next week or so. Probably like 80% new content or more. That should make it really much more intuitive to people why everything is happening the way it is, as opposed to just descriptions of what's happening, which is sort of how the white paper currently works. So hoping to mix it up. The other update on the Pinto side is, we are, as I said before, we're losing Floyd Rainwater. It's going to be tough to replace, if that's even possible. But yeah, it's an interesting time for the development team, where Dead Man Walking, as we talked about last week, is taking a step back, and now Floyd, and it's a time of transition. But one of the things that I think is really important is the protocol goes on. And so even though, if you look at the long history of the past 5 years of this project, the contributors have been changing throughout time, the protocol continues and the mission continues. So I've been trying to make sure that this transition goes smoothly. But it's kind of emotional. So the other thing is, we just published the cultivation system article. To me, it's quite important, particularly ahead of the convert bonus and penalty system the dynamic convert bonus going live, because the convert bonus directly draws inspiration from the cultivation system and follows it quite closely. And so that's, we felt it was important to put out that explainer prior to the launch of the convert system. So, that's most of the updates on my end. I see we've got a couple community members here. So the floor is officially open. If people have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, FUD, etc., the floor is open. Sovereign Llama, how are you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. Sorry, I missed the first bit of the meeting there.
All good. Anything on your mind in particular? I know you always have some very insightful questions to ask.
Not really. I was more just thinking kind of in general about algorithmic stablecoins. Like, to me, the market is really weird right now. Um, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, some of the major ones, there's a whole lot of volatility. I think it's manipulation. Like, I think big players are manipulating to self-enrich right now. But the mission of like algorithmic stablecoins, I think, is just so good. So, like it just like keep going. like like the potential and like what it means for finance in general to kind of get centralized control and that away from select people, I think, is super important.
Thank you, Sovereign Llama. Your encouragement means a lot, honestly. Uh, I tweeted about this recently, like the lack of acknowledgement, lack of popularity of our cause uh, can be quite sad and lonely. You listen to all these people leading the Ethereum protocol, Tim Biko, Dankrad Feist, uh, Thomas. It's like these guys are all preaching pie in the sky about decentralization, and they're focused on. I just heard, I think, Dankrad on the roll up talking about they're trying to now make sure that you can validate from a Raspberry Pi Pico, which is like, such that literally anyone can validate, basically. And it's like, well, what are they validating? They're validating a network that is centralized in value. It may not be centralized from a technical perspective, but it's definitely centralized from an economic perspective. And it's quite unnerving to have this be going on where, yeah, everyone's so focused. It's like, take your head out of your ass, man. Like, there's bigger things going on than making sure that we can run the validators on a slightly less performant machine, or even an order of magnitude less performant machine. Like, that's not the least. Decentralization is a least common denominator problem, and that's not the least common denominator. And so these technically minded people can continue to just ignore the economics problem, but that's foolish. And one of the things that Brendan and I and Mikey learned the hard way is we thought we were originally just working on an economics problem, and we learned the hard way about governance. And I would say at this point, it's the same phenomenon happening with Ethereum, where it's like, you know, these developers are so focused on the technical decentralization, they're ignoring the economics problems. And I think ultimately the chickens are going to come home to roost if people don't wake up to it. So I remain resolved. I remain just as convicted as ever. I think the model is holding up, which I'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, it's quite an interesting dynamic at play where these technically minded people who may not have such a strong economic intuition don't want to engage with the economic problem. So yeah, very interesting position to be in. It is disappointing that people don't pay more attention to us, but we take our licks and we keep going. So I appreciate your encouragement very much.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like it's perfectly said. Like they talk about decentralization, but then the entire network is powered by stablecoins, and it's only going to get worse because governments have now caught on to stablecoins, and it's a good way to deal with their debt, right? And it basically just leverages the dollar in a sense, and it's not decentralized at all. So you're absolutely right. Like you have a decentralized system, but all the economics and all the value behind it is powered by centralized dollars. It's just basically the same shit that we've been in forever. So I'm 100% committed. I like this project. I thought, as much as everyone like hates Luna, it was cool, and uh, you know, it, it's a project that I think just needs to happen, and it's an honorable thing to pursue, right? Like, don't stop pursuing, algorithmic coins and things like that, because like otherwise we're always just going to be in a centralized system, you know, at the whim of a few.
Amen, brother. Amen. Uh, maybe the glass half full way that I think about the problem, and it's like you mentioned Terra. Uh, Terra really went for perfection, where it was not volatile at all. It had a perfect peg until it blew up. And from my perspective, the approach of an algorithmic monetary policy, algorithmic stability, needs to have a much more nuanced approach where it's like the utility of a money uh, is not based on it's perfectly stable. In fact, money, the value of money is fundamentally dynamic. This is why, like, the Fed pegs to a CPI and actually some inflation relative to an index of price across the economy. The way that index is measured is controversial, but the point is you still have to figure out, well, what is value that you want to be stable to? So already it's a question, subjective question. And my mindset is, Bitcoin is great as a store of value, but the monetary policy of it just says 21 million Bitcoin with basically a fixed inflation schedule. And the point is, we have to be able to do better than that. We have to be able to create a monetary policy that is able to create a less volatile currency. And in my mind, it's only a matter of time until the volatility of the currency will be less than the volatility required for people to find real utility. And when you think about the utility of money, like the other angle other than volatility of the currency is carry cost. Like, what is the opportunity cost of holding the currency? And this is something that I think actually algorithmic stablecoins, particularly in the early days, can do orders of magnitude better than centralized stablecoins. So it's like, at best, they can just pass on the interest from treasuries or another sovereign bond, which are going to be capped at low single digit percent or mid single digit percent. When you think about real rates and you factor in inflation, you're lucky if it's paying anything positive. In the case of an algo stable, you can actually have a system where you have real interest, positive carry for holding the system, for holding the currency. And so it's like, in my mind, the question is, can we design the algorithm to be good enough to keep the volatility low enough that there's enough utility to using the coin using the money, I should say, once you factor in the interest of holding the currency? I think the answer has to be yes. How low do we need to get the volatility? I don't know. How high do we need to get the interest rate? I don't know. But in my mind, it must be a solvable problem. And when you put it in the sense that we have to solve it, and when you put it in this lens, like, if you get the volatility low enough and the interest rates high enough, then it wins. Like, in my mind, that's a solvable problem. You don't need perfect stability. And I'm quite optimistic we're getting there. And on the note of the convert bonus going live imminently, I think it's a big deal. I don't know how efficient it will be, what the efficacy of the thing will be, such that, like, we don't know if it's going to mean that we immediately repeg. We don't know what level of convert bonus it'll take for people to start to convert. But I'm very excited. And it may be that we need to refine the model and improve the convert bonus. It may not be good enough already. But in my mind, this is a big thing for the protocol to now offer some sort of explicit bonus for converts beyond just seeds, which is temporary. So, yeah, I am more convicted than ever here. And that's before we even talk about utility and adoption, which hopefully is coming soon.
I'm 100% with you. I think instead of going for perfect stability, going for low volatility is definitely the right direction. And honestly, like, you can't even call the dollar a stable coin. I mean, it was always a dollar, but the value of that dollar's always fluctuated and it's continued to kind of slowly rug. So it's kind of an illusion. They say that everything's always pegged to a dollar, but the actual value underlying that dollar has been changing regardless of, the peg of a dollar. So I think, the whole dollar system, all that is like, and the whole financial system has got a small bleed, and it's had a small bleed since we went to fiat, dump gold, and the system's just been slowly draining. And about Terra Luna and stuff like that, like I think they probably made a mistake of that super stable $1 peg, because I mean, you're pegging to a centralized currency. Like, to me, that doesn't even make sense. So if you're going to have a decentralized currency, then you kind of need the market to decide what that peg is going to be. And I think it's healthy for it to fluctuate. So I think the direction that Pinto's taking is the right one, in terms of, instead of going for perfect peg and then pegging to some kind of centralized source, but a low volatile money, that the value of it, the underlying value of it, is what it's worth. It's not, it's not a dollar and then it being worth 10% less the next year. It's just gonna fluctuate naturally with the market, and what you see is what you get.
Totally. Very wise words, sir. I think one of the things that I'm looking at is the gold price. Gold just hit $4,000 an ounce,
Yeah, it's crazy.
all-time high. And I didn't read it, but I saw I think an article mentioned that basically any
Silver
time
hit
that this is
all-time high today, I think.
wow. Yeah, anytime if you look at the history of currency where you have like a doubling in the gold price in a short period of time, it's an indicator that the current monetary order is unstable at best. So I don't want to be a doomsdayer and say the USD is collapsing. I think stablecoins are a great strategy from Bessent and the Treasury to sort of create some sort of demand for treasuries in a way that's not highly inflationary, because it does seem to be generally new demand for treasuries, although I don't know if that scales to 20 trillion, if you will, but it probably will scale to 5 trillion without causing much inflation. And I know he said by 2028 he wants 3 trillion of stable. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a game that's going to play out over the next couple of years, where we'll see, is USD able to hang in there. Obviously, China and Russia, they're trying to do what they can to destabilize the currency, and I don't know what's going to happen. But in my mind, whenever the going gets rough, Pinto will be ready. The work that we've been doing on Beanstalk for the past 5 years, we're going to do our best to be ready when the time comes. And it may be that in order for people to really care, we need to see an instance of real centralization for stablecoins. I don't know. I hope not, but we'll be ready when the time comes.
Yeah, I think so. I think exactly. And you're talking to gold. And actually Bitcoin makes me a little nervous in a sense when you see the price of gold hitting all-time highs and records like that. And Bitcoin being a good store of value. People say, well, Bitcoin's digital gold, but to me, gold has actual use case in terms of GDP and productivity and making things and stuff like that as well. And Bitcoin doesn't. So to me, I see Bitcoin of kind of like good times money. When people have extra money and stuff, they throw that value into Bitcoin. But what happens if times get really dismal and bad? That money could leave twice as fast as it went in there, right? Because it's also super liquid. And I think having a stable coin but being pegged to there's obviously Bitcoin pools in there, but there's also Ethereum. Ethereum to me is a much stronger um, sort of underlying of a value in the network, because it also has use case, right? It's a network, and I'm super hopeful seeing more and more assets get tokenized and stable coins get tokenized. So demand for Ethereum, I think, will always be there if everything gets kind of put on chain in terms of a network. So um, it's super interesting times, and we'll see where this all goes, I guess.
Cheers. Thanks for hopping in here and weighing in, Sovereign Llama. I appreciate your conviction, your first principles thinking. I can't say I agree entirely on your Bitcoin thesis, but we definitely agree on our algo stablecoin thesis. So thank you very much for hopping
Yeah,
in here.
I'm not saying too that Bitcoin's going to go zero. I don't know. Like I think, to me, I think maybe things are going to maybe go more into it. People will do that as fiat kind of collapses, and maybe Bitcoin and gold and things like that, and then it's going to be kind of an underlying of the whole system. But I think the to me the risk is still there. But I don't get me wrong. I'm not a doomsdayer about Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin, but it's just kind of thoughts I've had and kind of watching things play out. But yeah.
Cheers. All right, everyone. The floor is open. People have thoughts, comments, FUD, questions? Harry, are we ever going to get a cameo? I've been working for 5 years to get a Harry cameo. What do I got to do? All right, we'll hold out hope on the Harry cameo for one day soon.
Harry wants Nebula access. He's in the chat.
Oh, which chat? There we go. All we need is your KYC AML, Harry, and then we can get you right in. Yeah, give me Nebula access and I will give Cameo. What a trade. I think we can work something out there. I will DM you, sir, at some point. Fun, very fun. Appreciate you always, Harry. All right. Floor is open if anyone has anything they want to add or talk about before I get into sort of my thoughts on the state of the protocol. Going once. Going twice. All right. So I think the first thing to talk about is the outflows that we've seen. The I think one of the main things to watch as we spend extended periods of time below the value target are the outflows, and particularly not the first order of other outflows, which is generally normal, particularly as the market goes up. People are more mindful of the opportunity cost that they're realizing by staying in the protocol instead of pursuing options elsewhere. But to me, the more important thing is the second order opportunity, the second order of outflows, where it's like when we have an outflow, does it contribute to a bank run? Does it lead to more outflows? And this is where I think the protocol has really demonstrated tremendous efficacy, particularly during this really extended period of time below the value target, where this week we saw like a 60K withdrawal that took about 56,000 of liquidity out of the protocol, and we only had two withdrawals after that. One of like 7,000 and one of like 3,500 or so, and it's quite powerful, honestly. Even though right now we're in a position where if people converted more and no one sold, or even if people did sell but we converted more, but if everyone just continued to hold their exposure to the protocol, the system would return to its value target. The protocol would repay and would start to mint a little bit, particularly with the convert penalty. We would expect some minting. And for whatever reason, that's not happening. So this is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about the convert bonus, which is going live. I think it's quite important to see how that performs and to get a better sense for where people stand in terms of their incentives to convert. But given that we've had quite an extended period of time here where we've been all across the 80s, up until the low 90s, now down into the high 70s, the fact that even as people are leaving and the front doesn't look so unified when you have someone withdrawing 60K, the fact that basically no one else left, there was only 2 other withdrawals after that, it continues to be a testament to the efficacy of the stock system. And so you think about bank run minimization, you think about what is stability. Like, sure, we have an index which is fixed. We don't have anything like the RAI model where the thing is just pegged to a historical average of its own price, which honestly, if we did that, like, the thing would be back at its target. But instead, we sort of have chosen the harder path where it's like we actually have a fixed target. The fact that we've been below the target and we haven't had mints in months, the fact that people aren't leaving, even when one guy leaves and leaves in size, that people stick around, to me, it's really encouraging. And I would bifurcate, like, there are some big wallets that couldn't really dump because of their size at this point without taking a major loss of value. But all the smaller holders could still get out almost certainly at a profit, depending on when they entered. But my guess is at a meaningful profit. And the fact that people are sticking around, to me, is a strong indicator that the people that are still here, the vast majority, are real believers in the system. Sovereign llamas, if you will, sovereign beavers. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously we'd prefer it if people didn't leave, but that's always the name of the game. So I've been quite encouraged by the outflows, particularly the second order. The other thing I want to talk about is the convert bonus a little bit. And I'll talk more about it hopefully next week, assuming it's live. But I think we're at an interesting point where, the crop ratio is at 200%. We could potentially raise it further. This is something that Ford Pinto has argued for in the past. I think maybe a smaller update in the not too distant future might be worth making, where we make the crop ratio basically be arbitrarily high, but or can go arbitrarily high, but maybe it decreases or increases logarithmically, would sort of remove the upper bound on the crop ratio. But in my mind, before we do that, it would be great to collect more data on how the convert bonus affects holders. And, there's a real difference between seeds, where you earn the stock over time. And in order for the stock to be earned over time, you need the seeds to remain disparate, meaning you need the crop ratio to stay at a high crop rate. And the thing is, if you convert all the way to the peg, you actually cause the crop rate to go back down. And so there's this somewhat perverse incentive to converting all the way to the value target, which disincentivizes converts even at high crop rates. So it doesn't work exactly from the perspective of like, well, you don't know how long the protocol is going to stay at a high crop rate. You don't know how long it's going to stay below the value target, particularly in smaller size. So you may be incentivized to convert. But in some sense, it's not a great mechanism, or at least a part of the game theory that isn't super aligned with the incentives of the protocol or what the protocol would like. And so now introducing this fixed one-time bonus that you lock in, that much like the temperature doesn't really have a cap, I'm very interested to see how it affects people's behavior. And we'll also learn more. Floyd has raised the question of, like, right now you basically have no seeds on the CBBTC. Why are people still here even, right? Why are they holding this stuff instead of converting? Right now there's no seeds on CBBTC effectively. Why are people still holding the BTC exposure as opposed to converting to ETH or USDC, for example, or Pinto? And there's no right answer for that. But I think we'll get more data as to what's going on once we have the convert bonus go live, and to see, do people really just want to hold their LP? Maybe people just aren't actively managing their positions at this point. Maybe that's something Tractor which the convert bonus upgrade will also include support for tractor convert order book. To me, it's a pretty big deal to get that data about depositors and what their preferences are and what their behavior is. So I'm very excited about this upgrade. I know I've been talking about it for quite a while. A lot of work has gone into this and getting it ready. So from the design phase many months ago to quite a lengthy implementation, and now all of the infrastructure and front end support is finally almost ready. So it's quite an exciting time. Yeah, those are the main things I'm watching and paying attention to. I want to shout out Pinto for his work on the docs. It's been super helpful. He can't hear me. I guess he can hear me because he's with me, but he can't hear me on the stream and respond. But it's been great, and I'm very excited about the improvement to the docs. So I think that's pretty much it on my end that I wanted to cover. Going to open up the floor again to see if people have questions, comments, thoughts about what I shared or anything else happening on the farm. All right. I think we'll wrap a little early. Apologies again for starting late. We will see everyone next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye.